we talking about preseason, or are we just going to get into GNCC round 1?
We're just getting right into GNCC round 1. We'll have to come back to preseason.
Have you been stuck in a rut lately? Welcome to In the Rut podcast with your hosts, Josh Merrit and Macy Davenport.
JM5.
What is up, everybody?
We are happy to be here, and we appreciate your patience while we had a little bit of a break there. We are happy to be talking about Josh's round 1 big buck experience. Josh, tell us.
It was a heck of a weekend, guys. And
So
girls.
what are we going to... Let's just kind of do an overview of what all we're going to be talking about.
I mean, coming to the race, maybe we'll start the week before. How about that?
That sounds good.
And then we'll get into, day before race day, Friday, and then race day. And, all the juicy stuff that went on during the race.
So, week before round 1.
I went down to the Mid-East race. It is a North Carolina, South Carolina series. And stayed with the Galatas for a night and raced the next day. First 2-hour ride for the new year. And it was very fun. Didn't have a good start.
What happened on the start?
I got super excited. What Bryson did at round 1 of GNCC, I did at round 1 of Mid-East. So I'm glad I got that out of the way.
What was that exactly? What
so
did Bryson do?
it's really when you hit the throttle too quick and you kill the quad. Like, it just doesn't even want to turn over. So I did that.
So you hit it before you hit the start button?
Or I hit it too quickly.
Okay, you gave it too much throttle?
Yeah, too much throttle. It wasn't started up all the way. It happens a lot. And it's like you have like a split second of either it's going to start or it's not. So I was on 12 volts at the Mid-East, so that could have been why. But I also think I got really excited because it was the first race of my year.
So you got a bad start, but tell us a little bit about how you worked your way through and the results of that race and kind of how you felt. Because it was not only was the first 2 hour that you had done since off season, but you didn't ride any other locals. The one other, what was it? The FTR got rained out that you guys possibly were going to go to. Yep. So tell us kind of your thought process. And obviously it was kind of foreshadowing for what was going to, kind of, you practice and you ride all winter long and you think you understand and you have a gauge of where you're at. But I think that was a good test and kind of just to tell where you're at. So tell us how you were feeling and kind of what was going through your head throughout that race.
Yeah, so didn't get the good start. Came around lap 1. I think I was like mid-pack and made some quick passes. Some of the A guys and Pro-Am guys that were in the class let me by, or I got by. And just out of like respect, and I was really appreciative of that. And at one point, I was looking ahead. I could see Junior. He looked like 30 seconds, 40 seconds going back at it, looking at it. The lap times, he was over a minute and ahead of me. And I told Grayson on the line, I was a spot next to him. I was like, yo, Grayson, if we don't get a good start, we really just have to wait for lappers, because the track was super tight on one side of the track, and the other side of the track was like TT and Moto. So it was really hard to pass, and I knew the lappers, there was a record number of racers there. So it was like...
For the Mid-East series.
Yeah, for the Mid-East series. 170 quads, which was a ton of quads. Especially first round, lappers aren't going to be used to moving over. Helped me catch Junior. I ended up making the pass on the last lap. We put on a show on the motocross track.
Because you guys ran the full motocross track.
We ran the full motocross track, and I ended up getting the win. It was a really good day. Really good training day, just with passing people and getting by lappers and just being smart about it. I think it was a very successful race in that aspect.
So it gave you confidence, and you also realized that all the time and effort you had been putting in the preseason actually paid off in some sense, just because of how good you felt.
Yeah, I think you can never duplicate a GNCC race, but that is the closest thing you can do. I would say just racing out there, getting the green flag, and then battling with Junior was all I really needed. And I was like, okay, I'm ready to go GNCC racing. So I talked to Junior after the race. I was talking to Senior, his dad, and I was like, I think we were doing like a 5th, 6th, maybe 7th place GNCC pace and like riding pace. So I think that was, really good. Obviously, you want to be running like a top 3 pace, but at a local with lappers, it's really hard to do. So it was super successful. Went into the next week. I stayed down south and at the Galata's house, trained, rode the race bike, broke that in.
So that was the first time you rode that race bike. Was what day?
It was Wednesday.
So it had just kind of been sitting and waiting since Marcus had it done. It went down with you, and then you broke it in on Wednesday. How long did you ride?
I rode for 40 minutes exactly. I have an hour meter on there.
And thoughts on the first ride, and you maybe in comparison to other first rides, or just
So last season I had Levi Cohn with me, and we were in Georgia when I did my first ride on the new race bike. I rode that bike for over an hour and a half, just trying to dial it in. This one, 40 minutes. I adjusted the steering stabilizer probably 4, maybe 5 times to get it exactly where I wanted it. We already had the shocks settings in from what I have on my practice bike. Now, a race quad's always going to be more rigid than your practice bike, so I knew that was going to be a little different, and you could definitely feel it. But then you think about it, all right, you're racing a local or practicing, it's not going to be as rough as a GNCC, so you want it a little bit stiffer. So it was perfect. I've never had a quad so easy to set up in my life, and I loved it.
Do you think that was because you were just so used to the bikes that Mark built last year, and then, you weren't starting from ground zero? You were kind of just tweaking what was already there, what you were already used to?
I think it was a little bit of that, a little bit of riding practice bikes that didn't have a ton of hours on them. The frame feels good on it, on the practice bikes still. So it was like an easier transition.
That makes sense.
Like the bikes I'm practicing on now are my race bikes from last year, and they both had maybe 16 hours on them rather than a full season like normal. So there's normally 13 rounds, so at least 26 hours because I only had one back in the day. So it definitely was a easier transition, I think, from the practice bike to the race bike. The shocks were dialed in. We, did a lot of testing down in Florida that didn't actually go to our dirt setup, but I think it all just transitioned really easily.
So you broke it in Wednesday. Thursday, you leave to go to the track, or you leave Friday morning, right?
I left Friday morning.
Friday morning. And you guys kind of get settled in. You bike the track.
Yep, bike the track with Grayson, Ronnie, James, and Junior. and Andrew Smallwood. It was a good bike, nice, easy track to bike. Looked at the hill. Didn't see a ton of lines out there. I had like one or two, but nothing crazy that nobody else would see.
Did you anticipate, like you had said, you thought it was what, tight?
I thought it was
Ahead
going
of
to
time?
be super tight, and I get off the track, and I'm walking around the pits, and everybody that already biked the track was like, dude, it's freaking highway. It's fast. And I'm like, what? What are you guys talking about? Did you guys not see how tight this whole track was?
So, like, did you, because after the race interview, when Bryson said he figured it was going to be a 5-lap race, did you think that? Like, do you ever have that, I guess, kind of mindset and look at when you're looking at a track pre-race? Do you ever look at it that far in depth, or are you just trying to pick out good lines and make sure that the course is the same as last time?
Yeah, I don't look at it for, like, if it's a 4-lapper or 5-lapper. I don't even know how you would measure that, other than if you biked it and you did like a miles on a watch or your bicycle, and then just kind of estimated how fast you think you're gonna be going. But it's mostly just look at lines, make sure there's nothing dangerous out there, and just know the track. Like, you can, after so many years of racing GNCC, I can memorize the track on the biking it. So it's comes second nature, and it's really fun. Actually, I have a blast biking it.
So, in general, you like that track anyways. Last year, you did well at the season opener. So, you biked the track, felt confident, got a good mindset. The bike was pretty much buttoned up. You had just a couple of things to go over, right, for Mark to just kind of finalize. And
Yeah, so I have Mark always check my chain and check my filter this weekend. We're running a new intake, and I just needed to have him put his magic touch on it. Just made me nervous a little bit because I haven't been using it. So, other than that, I'd throw some DWT wheel covers on. And
you didn't do that till
I didn't do that till Friday.
no, you didn't.
Or Saturday. Yeah.
So Friday, you just did a couple things, kind of some team stuff, kind of getting to see everybody again. I was saying it was like a holiday because everyone's there, everyone's
you
excited.
get to see your family, you get to see your friends, you get to show off your new 4-wheeler. Yep, all the cool things.
So Friday, we leave the track and we go get some food. We go back to the hotel, wake up decently early Saturday, get breakfast in us, get back to the track, and walk us through your pre-race morning.
So got there as the youth was kind of finishing up. We were an hour and 10 minutes away from the track in our hotel, so I didn't want to get up too early, but I also didn't want to miss all the racing going on because I do love watching racing. So we got to go to the morning start. We got to say good luck to all my friends in the 4x4 class, the women's class, the 250 class, all the way to C class. So got to see all of them, say good luck, and after they took off, kind of went to just triple check the 4-wheeler, start to do the tire pressure in the tires, get the wheel covers on, pin the seat, get the 24 volt in the main battery charged before I pin the seat, and just tape up the front end, all that kind of good stuff, like just last minute checks.
And a lot of stuff you can't do before that time.
Yeah, I don't like to do my tire pressure before 3 hours of the race. So it's really a mindset kind of thing. And same with like just checking lug nuts one more time and that kind of stuff.
Well, that was even like when I'm pretty sure it was the national anthem. Mark was walking up, and you had said, "Mark, I need you to check to make sure my carrier's tight."
Yeah.
And he kind of looked at you like, "Josh, are you serious?" And you were like, "Yeah." And I think all three. Well, I don't know if you knew this, but I definitely think Mark and I knew, looking at each other without saying, if he didn't check that mentally, I think you were going to be consumed by it the entire race. So I think he happily took care of it. But
Definitely. I was like, as he was doing it, I was just thinking back, like, when was the last time I touched those bolts? I was like, why didn't I do it right before the race? Because that was the only thing that was on my mind right before I lined up. So that was really scary, and I'm glad he did that.
So you did everything you needed to do to make sure that your mind was ready and you felt like your body was ready. And I had been saying to you all off season, put in the time and effort in the gym and when you're riding and practicing. So when you line up for round 1, you are not worried that you did not do all that you could do and show up to be your best self. And I think, I don't know, now that it's over, can you say that you had that clear conscience and you were ready to go out there?
You know, I still don't even know that, because it's such a
Loaded question.
loaded question. Now that I know I did so good, yes, I can think, all right, I knew I was a little bit more prepared than I thought I was. But mentally, you have that block that you're always thinking, oh my gosh, I should have stayed in the gym longer. I should have rode more. I should have ate better. I should have done anything else, a little bit more, a little bit better. And so I don't know. To be honest, what Johnny Gallagher said to me on the line really, I think, made the race for me.
Your mentality for the race?
Yeah.
Or you just like the overall experience? That was your highlight.
No, I think it was like it made my race good, because he put me down to earth really quickly. He said, Josh, you're just going to go ride out your 4-wheeler. Don't worry about anybody else. Just ride your own race, and I'll see you at the finish line, pretty much, like at the end of the day. And I went out there. I got a great start, which helped. And I literally just focused on what he told me. Like, I'm just out here. I'm just putting in more laps like I did all winter long. Luckily, I kind of rode by myself all winter long. I did ride with some of the guys, but a lot of the laps I did were all alone. So pushing myself and just being out there, putting in consistent lap times. It was what I did all winter long. So it worked out.
So they yell the 10 seconds, the flag starts flying, and I was running down because I like to stand behind you, try and get a video, and then I ran towards the whole shot line, and I'm jumping up and down because I think you got it. Obviously, it's been discussed that it was a close call between you and Jared, but you ended up first in the woods. So tell us about your first lap.
Well, I'll go back to the start, and you actually brought this up to me, because in the video you can see I started, I'd say, very close to junior, which is to my left, but I actually left a spot open to the right of me, and then it was McGill. McGill scares me a little bit off the starts, and if you watch the start from your point of view,
The video I took.
the video you took, he swerves left to right.
You were kind of on like a grass mount, it was a
More dirt.
yeah,
And he was on like gravel.
gravel. Yeah, there wasn't much grass where he was. It was more, you could tell. Yeah, like you said, gravel.
So he spun, he was sliding left and right, and it opened up a lane to the right of me, which gave me that good start. First lap, I'm leading. I make it, I think, all the way to about half a mile to the hill, the big hill. And Bryson had a outside inside line on me, and I went inside outside through like the woods. So it was a split line, and he literally passed me. I was not planning on letting him by. I was gonna hold him back as long as I could, but he went by me, and I latched onto the back of him. I threw that rope out there, and I was like, "Pull me along, Bryson," and that's right. This is exactly what I did, and I literally just try to mimic every tire mark that he put down. I try to do the same exact thing. Now, there was a lot of sections that he was a little bit quicker than in, and I definitely was getting sketchy trying to keep up with him. But I knew the longer I stayed with him, the better off my race would be. Did I know we would get a gap that we had?
It was 28 seconds on the first lap. You were 4 seconds behind him. And then to Jared, it was 28 seconds.
Yeah, that is absolutely crazy. Jared is a animal and a beast at racing. And for us, on a tighter track, especially, like Jared is one of the best tight racers out there, winning snowshoe and podiuming, round one a ton of times. And like I think a few years ago, he was winning the race until his clutch went out. So he knows what he's doing. He's got a good setup. For us to have a 28-second lead on the first lap, for me, I should say, to have a 28-second lead on third place is crazy. And I wouldn't say I was like riding over my head once Bryson kind of got out of my view, but like I felt like I had a good pace. I picked up 2 lines from Bryson. It was crazy. I've never seen these lines used. They were probably only 4 feet off the track, little split lines. And it wasn't any faster going in these lines. It was just smoother. So lap after lap, you're saving energy. And it was actually pretty cool, and I'll remember those 2 lines for the rest of my life because I'm sure we'll run those sections forever. So
it probably makes you wonder how many other lines like that at all the tracks he's found that you're hoping probably to pick up.
Definitely, and I think that's a reason why some of these guys, like you see the top 3 normally pull away, and they're following each other because those 3 guys have the same lines, and maybe the other guys are running the main line and either using more energy and getting tired at the end of the race, or it is slower.
It's just more taxing on your body. So you go through lap 1. On lap 2, there was still talk at this point if it was going to be a 5-lap race. Obviously, everyone's trying to do math, see if we can gauge, because the first lap was roughly a minute and a half longer than the lap times you guys ended up running for the rest of the duration of the race. So you come in for a pit and you were pretty quiet, surprisingly. I knew we all had our duties of what we were going to do, and I knew what we wanted to tell you, that there was a line behind Jared, and we weren't sure if they were coming for you or what was going on, but we made sure to tell you that you're doing a good job, but keep your pace, keep going, keep pushing yourself. Proud of you. Keep going. So you got fuel, fresh goggles, some water in you. You take off for lap 2. Well, I should say that would be the end of your lap 2, and you roll into lap 3.
So when I came into the pit, I was so focused on just like trying to keep eyes on Bryson, because obviously following is a lot easier than reading the track. And when I came into that pit and you guys told me there's a line behind Jared, it scared the crap out of me. I was like, oh my gosh, they're all going to, either not pit when he pits and try to make it a whole nother lap and, try to sprint towards me, or he's holding him up. I didn't know what was going on.
We didn't tell him how far at that point they were behind. We just said they were coming. We didn't say how far.
Yeah, so really, like, I was definitely quiet and calm during the pit, and I think it was because I felt in control of everything. I didn't tell any of you guys what I wanted you to do to the pit, so I hoped you guys all figured it out and it went smooth as glass. Thank goodness. Got goggles, got water, got fuel. Put my cap back on the top of my fuel just in case it was a 5-lap race, and took off. Wasn't feeling fatigued at all, and really just pushed out of the pro pits. Now, the thing that really scared me was the next pit board I got was Junior and McGill coming, or I think it's a Junior and McGill got by Jared or something like that.
So they got by him during the pit, and that was, so you came in, Bryson came in for the pit, you came in, it was quiet. And then I don't know if you've seen, but Jameson posted a photo, and it was the coolest pro pit experience since I've been watching and have been able to be in the pro pit area, just to experience from 4th, I think, to 9th, I want to say. They all came in at the same time.
That is absolutely wild, and I'm so glad I wasn't a part of that.
I'm so glad you were not a part of it. Luckily, I believe everyone got in and out unscathed, and, so I don't know how I wasn't able to see who took longer and who was able to get, their pits out faster.
Yep. Now, I watched the Racer TV, and I don't know. It looked like McGill missed his pits.
Yes, I don't know if they missed it or they did tell him, hey, go ahead and go. But I know at that point, so it seems like Walker maybe, or no, I'm sorry, Junior and McGill got around Jared at that point, correct? Yep. And then behind Jared, you still had the group of people. I think after that, they slowly kind of, it broke up a little bit. But so you got that pit board, and then
I just kept pushing. I just really was focused on staying calm. I try to read the track and the terrain, remember the lines that Bryson showed me, just hit my marks all the way around the track, and it's like the bike felt flawless out there. I did tell Mark on the tech inspection side, if you were at the track, it was like a new, tighter section, and it got really...
we think that was what, from the 2 to like 4?
Yeah, 2 to 4, I think it was. And it just got really choppy, and I think my shocks are just set up to go faster on a higher speed and bigger bumps. So when I got into that section, it was really taxing, I thought, on my body. Like, I could handle it, but I felt like it could have been my suspension could be a little softer. So
I talked to Josh about this after, and I said, it seems like, so if you start talking about numbers and the track is supposed to be 12 miles, how many miles do you guys actually run, you think?
I think it was like 11 or 10.
So just to make numbers easy, if it's 10 and you feel like 2 miles of it aren't great, you're running at 80% perfection. And at that point, you're really getting into the nitty gritty. I feel, so it seems like for 80% of it, it was working really well. And you're at the point now where you're just trying to, and it might even be 85%, but you're just really trying to nail it down and get it figured out. So you have 90, 95 to 100% where you feel like it's working for you perfect.
And that's exactly what I told Mark. I was like, I don't know if there's anything we can do. What do I make it worse in that, 8 miles of track?
It'd be so hard to know for sure too how the day, like the race day, is going to and how the track is going to form and shape up, whether there's extra moisture in the air. And so it's going to, I think there's sand, but it does get clay, like it gets tacky, right?
Yeah, so, it's like in the tighter section, it was more clay and like braking bumpy. And then the rest of it was like a lot bigger bumps that the suspension could really soak up. So, like I told Mark, I don't know if there's anything we could have done because it could have made it worse for the rest of the track, and I wouldn't want that. So we'll leave it where it is. I wish we were going back there again for a second round, but this year we are not. So we'll save that settings for Georgia because that's similar terrain, and we'll move forward from there.
Okay, so going back to your pit board, you get the Jared, grouping. Then you get a couple other pit boards.
Yeah,
and
these
we're
were
trying.
the when I got fun.
Johnny is saying we're listening to Racer TV, and there's also we're watching it on our phones, but they also have it broadcasted through Pro Pits, so we can hear what he's saying. He's like, if I were a part of that Josh Merrit pit crew, it'd really be a good time. I'd be telling him, that Walker's coming, and he's really just got to ride his own race and keep his pace. And so I'm still in Pro Pits. Kara is biking to different parts of the track to get you different boards.
So
and
my pit boards went from 1 minute to the next pit board, which is, a few miles later, 40 seconds.
down from the person behind you.
Yeah. So
The other thing is we had someone at home, Jake, Kara's boyfriend. He was at home and he was watching Racer TV, and it's a little bit chaotic and the service wasn't great, but we were getting very accurate and up to date, without having to stare at our phones. He was able to count in between when you guys would come by at the mile markers and give us almost down to the second, gapping throughout the race, and we weren't just having to go off the last time you guys checked in.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know that.
Which was really nice. He was doing it between you and Bryson, and then whoever was behind you, and then fourth place as well. So we had a really good gauge, and so when we were putting between Kara and I, when he was receiving these pit boards, they were at least 15 seconds less than what was actually behind him. It was enough to keep him on his toes, but not so much that we wanted him to obviously panic. There was still some panic ensued.
It made me panic for sure.
Well, then there was another one and I think we all expected, and maybe this is just a wrong assumption, but I think I expected Walker to come through the pack late in the race. So I don't know if you did, but
I didn't know where he was, and I didn't know he wrecked off the start, but just knowing Walker for all the time that I've known him, I expected him to be up front like that. So I get the pit board, and it literally says Walker's flying. That's the last thing I want to know. I'm in second place on an island, guys. I am all by myself. I have no idea if I'm going fast or if I'm going slow compared to the train that's right behind me. And I have no idea how close they were behind me, other than 1 minute and then 40 seconds. Does that mean they were, closing up on me? Was it going to be 20 seconds? Was I going to hear them here in a second? I have no idea. Everything was running through my mind.
I knew that Kara gave him that pit board, and we don't know how much he can read. We try to keep it brief, but also deliver enough information that he can actually consume it while going as fast as he is. So after that, I was able to give him a pit board that said keep pace. And I think
that one calmed me down good.
Yeah, it just let him know, hey, just keep riding your race. You're good. He didn't know at that point that he was over a minute. I want to say around a minute and a half ahead of Walker. But he was going into his last lap, and we had figured at that point it was going to be a huge stretch for Walker to catch Josh. So unless a mistake happened, and we didn't want Josh to make a mistake because he was riding in over his head, and that was where the decision came to just keep your pace, hoping that he would ride his own race, and that's what he did.
Yeah, so that calmed me down a ton, and the fact that I figured all this out after the race was kind of made me mad. But
You're
then
trying
again,
to be strategic and
to
work out in your benefit.
Yeah, it makes sense at the end of the day. But next time I'll know. But then they're going to have to put, for real this time, they're catching you or something.
Yeah, it might not be good. It's going to be like the boy who cried wolf. He's not going to believe us. But I don't know. Either you're going to have to test it out and test the waters. But either way, it worked well enough for this one.
So lap 3, I was a minute and 35 seconds ahead of Walker. Bryson was a minute and 12 seconds ahead of me. I mean, last year, consistently, Bryson was a minute faster than me every single lap. So for on lap 3, he's only a minute ahead of me, minute and 12 seconds. I say I made some moves this year to put me in the right position. Couldn't be more happy with that. One little mistake, one thing goes wrong with that quad, I could have won the race. So, coming through the finish line, you guys obviously seen the emotion come out of me. I was jazzed. I was very pumped up, and to start the year 2024 GNCC season like that, it could only get one position better, and that's just to say that is wild. Like I said in my post, my Tuesday toolbox, last year 5th place, I said that was the dream start of the year. 2nd place, I don't even know what that's considered. Amazing. I'm still mind blown right now. I watched the videos of me crossing the finish line, and I'm still thinking it's a dream. But minute 34 behind Bryson Neal, a minute 37 in front of Walker Fowler, the second most winningest GNCC racer. Amazing. Now, what is even cooler, Walker called me, what was it, Sunday or Monday? Sunday, on the way home. He kept asking me if I was up. He texted me, "You up?" And I'd text him back, "Yeah, you up?" And it kind of went back and forth 3 times, and then he called me. And he tells me, we talk about the race. He congratulates me. I congratulate him. He's like, "I'm not going to lie. I was really thinking I had a faster lap time than you on the 4th lap." And just to hear him say that, I don't know if he meant to do it or whatnot, but he gave me a lot of confidence. Like, I was 2 seconds faster than him on the last lap. To just know he was trying to beat me just via lap time or catch me just a little bit, and I was still faster when I was on an island all by myself.
So that gave you basically you then understood and thought that he actually was trying. You didn't assume that he was just kind of maintaining. You actually thought in your mind that he was pushing and giving it his all, and you still were able to lay down a lap that was 2 seconds faster?
2 seconds faster, yes. Which is awesome. I mean, last year, obviously, he got hurt, but me and him rode together a ton, more than we've ever rode together with Cole and Kenny, and we were very similar in speeds. I know Walker Fowler is a man on the mission this year, and he's been training probably harder than anybody else on the pro road. For him to call me and say that, it was almost better than getting the 2nd place, because I look up to Walker. I've raced him my whole life, and just for him to say that, and like I said, I don't know if he meant to do it or not, but that boosted everything times 2. I was like, holy smokes. Like, 2nd place, Walker Fowler just said that to me. This is awesome. Like, what a time to be alive.
It was interesting to hear you talk and get to experience that with Walker too. I knew, and we could see the way that he was riding, he was pushing, but to get to see you experience it and know it on your own without us just telling you that was cool. The whole day, obviously, it was fun. It was more than fun. Fun isn't the best word to describe it. Do I love running around and being stressed out all day? That you're just gonna finish safely and you're gonna just ride your own race and have fun, but mainly be safe. Do I love that? No. Would I do it again? Yeah. Do I love being a part of your pit crew? Yeah. So I'm happy to have been there for that, and get to see you celebrated as much as you have been. You worked really hard. We have a lot going on in our personal lives, and you were able to kind of put all of that aside, and work really hard to earn that second place. So I'm excited for what this year has to bring. As far as round 2, I know that, and you might not even be done talking about round 1. I might be jumping the gun here, but this was talked about a little bit in your Tuesday toolbox too, of do you feel this extra pressure now? We know that Florida is hard, not specifically for you, but for a lot of riders, just from it's the nature of the beast with the way that the track is and all of that. So, I think that you've got a pretty level head on your shoulders as far as what your goals are, and you've thought a little bit about this. But now that we're a couple days past your victory high and it's kind of settling in, you're getting back to work and normalcy, tell us your thoughts for, this week or next round, kind of, I don't know, thoughts.
I think, like I said in the Tuesday toolbox, I don't feel any extra pressure. I've been a 6th to 10th place guy for a really long time in the pro class, and obviously last year getting my first podium in a mud race and getting a string of top 5s, it kind of I got onto some people's radar, but still I think I was a surprise this round.
Did you surprise yourself?
I surprised myself, but I also knew I was going to be fast.
There were a couple things you had said preseason to me that led me to believe that you were feeling confident. But again, I don't know how many times we've said, how hard is it to gauge whether you're practicing with other people? You've even said you can practice and feel like you're flying with Walker, and then the next time you guys would go out and race, he'd bring out this whole new speed that you've never even seen. So,
Exactly.
like I said, you'd say those things, but it's well, are those going to hold true during a race?
And that's you don't know how anybody else is practicing. Obviously I rode with Wyatt, I rode with Kenny, I rode with John Galata Jr., Grayson. Those guys could be having that off day. They could be, or they could be going as fast as they can be going.
And I don't think anybody is fully transparent, because you guys are friends, but at the end of the day, you're competitors and you spend a lot of time and effort, money. And so everyone, in my opinion, wants to put on a little bit of a better face than what might be true, or I don't know. You guys might be more vulnerable than I see or know about, but that's just probably my 2 cents of it.
I think it's funny because a lot of people do that, but I am always when I go out and practice,
you're an open book. You're different.
I'm an open book, and I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna ride at 100% until I almost wreck. I will slow down, or
you're saying you practice at 100%?
Yeah. I always practice at 100%.
I have to call you out. That's not true.
What do you mean?
You don't.
Unless I ride by myself, I am going at 100%. For that day.
Yeah, but you admitted during the thing that you ride the majority of the time alone.
Okay. In those days, I was in Croom. They were riding, but I was riding by myself. They were riding the same track, but not by me.
You ride race pace 100% of the time.
I try to, yes.
Okay. I respect it. I'll put some respect on it if you're saying it, then.
I try to, and it's hard. When I go and ride with Cole and Walker, I was trying to go as fast as I could go. At a safe practice race pace. If that makes sense. Obviously I don't want to KO myself out there.
So it's not were you okay, this is the separation that I'm trying to make. You said during the race, when you maybe lap 1 or 2, you were still following Bryson and you were trying to follow his lines. You weren't necessarily riding reckless, but there were some times where you felt like you were stretching it out.
Yeah.
That maybe wasn't the exact wording that you used.
No, and that's how.
But you're not doing that in practice.
No.
Okay. So let's just to clear the air, Josh practices at about 90% race pace. Sketchy.
We'll say 95.
behind Bryson, there's a difference.
That was like a 105 pace.
Oh, okay.
Way
you know
different.
What? Makes it. All the math is mathing.
He
We're
is
good.
a 2-time champion, trying to be a 3-time champion, and I kept the guy in sight for over a lap and a half. I'm pretty freaking proud of that.
105%. Okay. I like it. We can get on from that hurdle now.
Yeah. So what were we talking about before that?
Just vulnerability and
okay.
people's truthness of, where they're at and off season
So yeah,
and
like,
trying to gauge.
like I said, I knew I had a little extra speed this year. But did I actually know? Because they could have been messing with me.
But you know what, Josh? I think you having that mental confidence was what you needed, regardless of, I could say it till my face is blue. We've all believed in you. We've all known that you could do it. It simply took you knowing that you could do it and putting all of it together. There's a lot of outside factors, but a lot of times, and I think even you saying that what helped you most for that weekend was Johnny kind of grounding you and bringing you to earth before the race.
Yeah.
You needed that because you needed the mental calmness. So you being confident and having a clear headspace going into the season is exactly what you needed.
Yeah. And like you said, is there pressure for round 2? And like I said, I don't think so, because I think I'm still a surprise to everyone that I podiumed, even to myself. So if you think I'm going to be nervous to try to do it again, I think you have another thing coming, because I want to be that excited again going through that finish line. That
you keep
feeling,
saying that you're chasing that feeling, and I can see Josh. I just want everyone to know that Josh rewatches those he originally was watching the John Penton, but now he has 2. So if you heard the music on it before, just know that in my day-to-day life, I hear that music and that video a good couple times. It's obviously a little bit more frequent right now, but before the next, I don't know how many rounds or until he can do it again, I'll be hearing that the day of the race probably 10 times in the morning.
it's a...
And
the feeling is, I mean, when you race as long as I have and you haven't got a podium since, Pro-Am, which was 10 years ago, and then before that, youth, God, that feeling. You missed it. I missed it.
I can understand, because the feeling that I get seeing you accomplish something that you work so hard for, and the excitement that I have just being a spectator and not actually being the one to accomplish it is such a great feeling. So I can understand.
Yeah. And, forever chasing that feeling. Just like my post said, I love it. It's, if I never get it again, thank God I got it twice. But you better believe I'm going to be trying to get it again. So we got 12 more rounds this year, and Florida's coming up in 2 weeks. I feel like I got a good setup from Croom for this year, and I was feeling good down there, feeling fast, feeling smooth. That's really my whole goal this off season, was smooth and fast. That's all I wanted to do. And like, it's kind of how you see like Jet ride. That's what I liked about it. Jet don't look like he's doing a million things, kind of like Deegan. Like Deegan looks like they call him like the bulldog, kind of pushing through everything and just fighting everything and just making it look fast and doing all the right stuff. But Jet just looks like he's effortless, and that's kind of what I want to be like.
Every time we'd see you come by, or Kara was biking, and trying to see you everywhere she could, she's like, well, he looks fast. He doesn't look tired. He looks comfortable. He looks smooth. So as far as from what we could see, you were hitting your marks and you were doing it, at least in the spots we could see you.
And that's what I felt like out there. It was crazy. I mean, other than that little 2-mile stretch, I felt in 100% control. And
Have you in any other race coming to mind, could you recall feeling that comfortable or that smooth or that fast even? Or was that just really
for a
First-time
dry
experience?
race, it was the first time experience. The only other thing that would come to mind is John Penton. And that was,
Did you feel smooth and fast at that race?
weirdly, yes.
He's referencing 2023 John Penton Mutter
Podium.
Worky Podium.
Yes. And I don't know why. I think it was just because me and Adam were flowing and, everything was working out really good for us out there.
You know what it is, Josh? You like that podium mindset.
I guess so. I mean, obviously, you're not going to say when you go out and get 9th place,
You're
I
flowing
felt
and feeling good.
I felt great out there. That was amazing. Thank you guys.
You know what, though, Josh? Before you podiumed and before you were even getting 5ths consistently last year, there were times that you were okay and you did feel like the first time you got 9th, you probably felt that way.
Yeah.
So,
you're probably true.
You and we talked about this a little bit last year, but immediately, as soon as you earned that 2nd place at Penn,
It ruined
a lot
5th.
of the excitement for anything less. And it's great to see the drive and, you want more, you're hungry, but also don't discredit, all the hard work you've put in before.
Definitely.
And
If I get 5th this Florida race, I will be jazzed up.
because that would be your best Florida
That'll
finish.
be my best Florida finish. I think probably. Actually, I think at Mud Mucker I did get a 5th or 6th, but that wasn't even a Florida
What's Mud
race.
Mucker?
It was an old GNCC.
What a name.
Yeah, it sucked. It was literally like a mud section and then 6 miles of corners in a field. It was real dumb. That's the only reason I did good was because I was good at cornering back in the day.
You're good at cornering now.
Yeah, but that was I don't even consider that a Florida GNCC. River Ranch was a real Florida race, and obviously the Wild Boar I think is a real Florida race. So I think my best is like an 8th or a 9th. I don't even know. So I have to get in that top 5. If I get a top 5 or maybe even a 6th, I will be beyond happy if and shoot for the podium. Of course, we'll see what we can do battling those guys in the sand. A lot of those guys, Hunter, Walker, I don't know how Bryson does it, but Bryson, they freaking rip in the sand. So
Rippers.
yeah, and they spend months down there, so they should.
Bryson doesn't.
But Walker and Hunter do. I mean, they both have freaking houses down there. So, who else is good in the sand? Junior, normally a ripper in the sand. It's because he has 8-foot long legs. And I love you, Junior, but you can't use those legs this year. Give us an advantage somehow.
I think one of my favorite things from the weekend and the takeaway, I really loved Racer TV. And so I think what we figured out was the drone footage of Josh was amazing. And they got so much coverage because they were able to spot him just with the lighting and the way that the woods were. It was basically about an hour and a half of just Josh.
Yeah, it was wild.
It was really, really cool. But where I was going with that was Johnny and Mikey at one point had said it was important for Josh, I think, to get in the mentality that he is not just someone who can get on the podium, but he is now going to be this season a podium guy. And listening to you and your just mindset change and slowly start to believe that you really are a podium guy and tell yourself that you can be there, you should be there, has been cool just to evolve and watch.
Definitely. And that's what,
when you and I first met, you were okay with getting top 10s.
Yeah. Isn't that wild? What changed? What do you think changed?
Honestly,
yeah, this is an honest podcast.
honesty is the best policy. So here I go. I think that when you and I first met, you were 27. Not that that is a young buck in the class, but you've also had this fear of like growing up, and when people start to grow up and start their lives in a sense of moving on from like their childhood family. And I think you're happy to be in our relationship, but at some point you probably started to say, okay, if this is going to be serious and move on, and you see the trend is when you start to move on and do other things in life, it takes away and you know, normally ends a racing career for most, not all. But fast forward 3 years, you're 30 years old. I tell you all the time that you're aging like fine wine, but I'm sure you're realizing, you know, inevitably you don't know what your body's doing if you're going to slowly start slowing down or what have you. And since we've been dating also, you've been saying, well, this might be my last year. And I don't know if that's just to keep me from, because, you know, there's been times that I've said, hey, have you ever thought about that? Like, we travel to the same handful of places every single year. And while we're young, do you want to go and do and see other things with that time? And I agree. It's there's pros and cons to both, I guess. And the part about it is I feel like every year you felt like, well, I'm doing better, so inevitably I have to continue. But if I don't do better, then why would I continue? Just between your age and us starting to move forward in life, I don't know, I guess. And your family, like I should say, your mom, your dad, and your sister were extremely involved. You guys as a family made it more of a family event, I feel like, than just racing. And you guys still have that atmosphere, but just looking at like my experience from racing with my parents and yours, like it wasn't, and granted, like I did it as a fun, like youth type of a sport. It's not nearly to the level, but like even at that young age, I was always told like, we're not going there unless we're going there to win. We're not putting in all the time and effort. And you just didn't have that same push. They were just happy to be there and spend the time with you. And it didn't make the difference to them of if you were getting top tens in pro or if you were, I mean, obviously they're happier, I would say, but it made no difference to them, in my opinion.
That makes sense. So you think because of age, because of if I don't
think
do,
you finally are feeling a push now from
Feeling
the
it.
fact of now that you're performing better and you have more sponsorship help.
I do think that is a big thing. I think I tell you more than I tell anybody else, but like just having Jason and Alicia put their effort into me. I don't want to let them down. I don't want to let Mark down.
You have a lot of people, you know, you're representing their brands, their companies, they're putting a lot of faith in you. And same thing, you know, the roles are reversed. You're trusting a lot of those companies and brands to support you. It's a good partnership. But yeah, I agree. I think that action obviously has been a huge part of getting you to where you're at these past 2 years. And you're continuing to kind of work through that and find your guys' fit to see, you know, benefiting you both on both ends.
Yeah.
So it is a long season. I'm super excited to see how it all plays out. You certainly made an exciting opener.
Yeah, and I'm glad I could put on a show for you guys. I love it, man. It is the best feeling. And I hope I get to feel that some more this year and
Thank you guys for listening.
get some results.
We appreciate you taking the time to hear us out. We do have an Instagram, In the RUT Podcast, an email, intherutpodcast@gmail.com. We love to hear your feedback, any thoughts, suggestions on episodes you would have, and we appreciate it.